views expressed on this show are those of the host, guests, and callers, and not those of radio station KICK, Vision Communications Incorporated, its management, or advertisers. Vision Communications Incorporated is not responsible for the validity or accuracy of information presented on this program.
Wellness Wednesday with Dr. Norm Shealy and Dr. Sergey Sorin. Get the health answers you need from the creator of holistic medicine and the 2020 Holistic Doctor of the Year. To be a part of the show, call 417-447-1777. Wellness Wednesday. Now, here are your hosts, Dr. Norm Shealy and Dr. Sergey Sorin.
And good afternoon on this gorgeous day here in the Ozarks. And we'll start off by talking about stress, the common cause of all illness in the world. And after that, you'll be able to give us a call about anything because it is all related to your health. And don't forget, all year you need to keep up your supplements. And the place that I shop, and you should too, is Spring Valley Natural Foods. I like them because of the service. You know, you go into one of the stores around here and you're like in a warehouse and you have nobody to guide you about anything. You walk into Spring Valley and two people often come out to greet me and, you know, what can I do for you? They carry all of my goodies. Dr. Shealy says Shealy-Sorin wellness products like our essentials, our youth formula, our magnesium lotion and spray, our progesterone cream, all 5 of the bliss oils. But more importantly, they carry all the goodies you expect at a premium health food store. Spring Valley Natural Foods, the place where I shop and you should too. And of course, don't forget to shop at a real grocery store where you can get nature-blessed tart cherry juice concentrate. Remember, the average American is only getting 2.2 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. Well, you can get 3.7 more servings just by drinking 2 tablespoons of nature-blessed tart cherry juice concentrate in the produce department at real grocery stores. Lowers your cholesterol, anti-inflammatory, lowers your blood pressure, but most of all, it tastes smashingly good. It's better than almost all the fruits and vegetables you could eat otherwise. Nature Blessed tart cherry juice concentrate in the produce department at real grocery stores. And now, stress.
Stress. And how to be stress-free. By the way, my favorite hat, freedom, and that speaks for so many things. Freedom is a very big, beautiful word that can represent pretty much any aspect of life. At this point, I'd like to, have Dr. Shealy here and myself talk about for the next 20, 30 minutes or so about what is stress? Why is that important? How did we find out about that back in the 1970s and what has been done to work with it? All those things.
Actually, in the early 1908,
Mm-hmm.
the great father of American medicine wrote about stress and how it was the cause of disease. And then, of course, about the middle of the century, along came Hans Selye, Dr. Stress himself. And he demonstrated all kinds of things, like going to bed for a week was as stressful as having a major illness.
Mm-hmm.
Worry, anger, anxiety, those are the biggest stresses. Now, in today's polluted world, there's fluoride in the water and there's uranium in the sky. And there's all kinds of other poisons like, Roundup, the greatest poison in the world. 75% of all the rain in this entire country has Roundup poison in it. You have to take care of yourself. But at the top of the list is training your brain not to play a broken record about problems that you can't solve anyway.
Absolutely, and that's the big picture. Now, let's talk about, I'm not sure many people realize just how important and how terrible is stress. And so I'd like to talk a little bit about Dr. Selye. Let's come back to that concept because that is what ultimately, it led up to your PhD in 72 to 74, isn't it?
Absolutely. I met Dr. Selye, a wonderful person, by the way, several times. Gave workshops at the same place where he was speaking. But the important thing is you need to detach from those things you cannot change. Now, you can't change the government. You can't change the weather. You can't change anything but yourself. You can't change always your family or your kids, but you can change yourself. And you don't have to waste your time playing a broken record of how bad things are.
Mm-hmm.
Can you change it? If you can, great. Then whatever energy you wish to, trying to change it. If you can't change it, detach it. The greatest way to do that is autogenic training, the foundation for biogenics. Autogenic training has 28,000 scientific references on these benefits. I know of no other treatment of any kind in medicine. There's 28,000 scientific references behind it.
Indeed. Powerful stuff. Now, and we've mentioned this before. I think every show we talk about it, but I want to really dedicate this segment to stress and stress management. And I want to go back a bit. I don't think most people realize, but Dr. Shealy's work demonstrated that the huge majority, what was the percentage, 85% or more?
85 to 90%.
95, and I hear now 95+%,
Right.
which is most likely, of all mental, such as anxiety, depression, other psychiatric issues, but also physical. People don't think of chronic disease or dis-ease as related to necessarily how much stress they have in their life. But it's an incredible correlation.
And stress, by the way, of all kinds, physical, chemical, emotional, and nuclear,
Yes.
requires more basic nutrition.
Yes.
Now, 50 years ago, you could get by with 1 to 2.5 milligrams of B complex.
Mm-hmm.
Today, for instance, you need 25 milligrams of B1, B2, B3, B6, and lots of other things. If you don't get that, your brain is going to go to pot, so to speak.
Yes.
And I don't mean marijuana there. I mean, it's going to deteriorate.
Yes.
And you also need D3. Again, 80% of people in the country are deficient in D3, which is the number one essential for your immune strength.
Mm-hmm.
And we are also highly deficient in vitamin C. Once upon a time, the recommended daily intake of vitamin C was 60 milligrams. Now, the recommended government is 100 milligrams. You need, as an adult, 2,000 milligrams of vitamin C a day. And that vitamin C is made even better if you take 1 gram of MSM, methylsulfonylmethane, with it, vitamin C.
I just want to add a little something to it. The conventional medicine standards are not much better than the government standards
That's
for nutrition, health, and wellness. Just to say.
Well, let's face it, bureaucracy sucks.
Oh, yeah.
No matter where it is, whether it's government or medicine or banks or hospitals, bureaucracy in itself is one of the greatest stressors in the world and one of the least competent things in the world.
Absolutely.
However, I'm not going to waste my time playing the broken record of how bad it is. I was on the faculty at a major medical school, and after 3 years, I left because I thought they were beyond stupid.
Well, standards of care are certainly not good standards. Let's put it that way. So if a person wants to really address the underlying root of the issue, which is stress, and I'll make a statement, I'm sure you will agree, whatever the person's disease or dis-ease, lack of ease or illness or concern, stress is right behind there, very closely. And so question is, if you have high stress levels, the next question is, how do you handle that stress? What are you doing? Do you have a system?
If you spend an hour a day even playing a broken record of how bad things are,
Mm-hmm.
you need a minimum of an hour of biogenics.
1 for 1, that's right.
And for many people who are so far advanced in it, 6 to 8 hours a day of biogenics will be better than all the drugs in the world.
And that's what we do as part of our clinical practice, by the way. We work with the individual to literally create a personalized life plan, so to speak, a way to not just get rid of the problems, but reverse the dis-ease, but to optimize.
And at the top of my list with every new patient is I give them a copy of the MP3 of autogenic training with a request that they practice it a minimum of twice a day, which is only 18 minutes twice a day. But if you'll do that for 3 months, it retrains the brain. So after that 3-month period, you're going to do it a minute or 2 a day.
Yes.
To keep your brain trained.
Exactly. And what I tell people is, what I teach people, yes, you can continue to use a recording or MP3 or a CD. We have some people who are not technologically up to MP3s, but the idea and the concept is it's something that you learn, just like riding a bicycle. It's a neurofeedback. It's a biofeedback. And it's something that you own. And once you own it, you can do it on the spot. And that's beautiful.
And it's something I call sensory biofeedback, where you learn what's happening in the feedback from each organ and each part of your body.
Sensory biofeedback. Beautiful. Absolutely.
You tune into your liver, your heart, your foot even, or your ears, and how's it doing? Well, it's okay. Or if it's not talking to you at all, it's blocked. Or if it's hurting or out of balance, then you can train it back into detachment from those things you cannot change.
Releasing the stress, releasing the problems, releasing the complications.
And being at peace. Ultimately, it's a question of having the mind. My mind is quiet and still. It's a pleasant state. My mind is quiet and still. It's a very nice place to be.
That is what definition of freedom is for me. My mind is quiet and still. What does that mean when you get to that place? First of all, it's the opposite of the stress. It's the opposite of anxiety. It's the opposite of depression and all whatever is bothering. It's a place of I am okay.
But you can learn to take an unpleasant sensation, discomfort, of pain, and collect it like a vacuum cleaner, sucking it up in your breathing. That's an old American Indian technique. I learned it in 1975. Somebody's PhD was on that one subject of breathing to collect sensation from your feet. You sort of sweep out all the sensation until it's sort of free. And the more important of learning to breathe through the skin. That is an East Indian technique. And I read a book back in the early 70s. The first day in which you don't breathe through the skin, it begins to die. And I thought, but what he's really talking about, the first day you don't balance, you get rid of the stressful feeling. So if you imagine that your every breath is into this hand, just into the hand, not the rest of the body necessarily. After a while, you can make your hand numb. In 1976, I made my nose numb in order to have surgery through the nose, which they're cutting the bone up to my sphenoid sinus. And I said, give me 20 minutes, I'll be ready. After 20 minutes, they actually went in. I could hear the noise of the bone crunching, but no pain. And that's how much you can train your body to, well, control, regulate, get free of pain, and recreate health.
So your PhD project, it took you how many years? 2 years?
3 years.
3 years, okay. Yeah. From started 72?
74 to 77. No. I started in September of 74, and I graduated in February 3 years later.
So basically, from what I understand, I mean, you put together a lot of great people's work in a way that's a comprehensive...
Well, yes, I read 350 books, which I summarized into, and which became the foundation for creating Biogenics. And I took my exam on my PhD and passed the PhD, and I handed them a copy of my book for the public, 90 Days of Self-Help. They didn't want me to do both at the same time, but I did.
And that book is still out there, by the way.
Yes, and you go to our website and get a free copy of 90 Days of Self-Help, which gives you all kinds of background about what we're talking about, how to relieve yourself and your body of stress.
So this is something it's a huge topic, and it relates to everything in life. Now, let's talk about stress. Now, some might say stress is bad for you, period. Now, not all stress is bad for you. Acute stress can be very helpful, and it can actually help you get stronger, better, and overcome. That's the other aspect. It's the chronic stress, going over something over and over again without solving it, without resolving it. That's the chronic stress that kills us. But acute stress is actually inevitable. You work out. I go to the gym, for example. I feel sore afterwards. It's because I'm stressed the muscles. I've stressed the tissues. But then it gets stronger.
Stress actually destroys cells. It breaks down cells. And the byproduct of a cell is something called free radicals.
Yes.
It is, cell wall is a fat substance. And when the cell dies, that fat comes out in the urine as malondialdehyde. And you can measure your free radicals with a test called oxidata, OXIDATA. And if your free radicals are more than 1+, well, you're rotting away, so to speak.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's a physical mental connection. And for anybody who ever says it's all in your head, or if I ever hear it from somebody,
it's in your body, in your cells.
it's in you. Yeah.
And you can reduce these free radicals a whopping 80% with one technique alone.
Crystal bliss.
Crystal bliss.
Mm-hmm.
We followed people for up to 2 years, and after 1 month, they had reduced their free radicals 80%, and 2 years later, they were still 80% low. I don't know anything else anywhere in medicine that will reduce free radicals that well.
And the other thing that reduces free radicals, which is, again, one of the types of stressors, so it's not all mental. There's also environmental, there's physical techniques, is scalar device, adrenomedullin scalar. Now, by the way, that is a wonderful stress-related concept.
Yeah, most people know that when you have a stress reaction, your cortisol goes up, your adrenaline goes up, and they don't know that in order to bring it back to normal, if you're healthy, your DHEA comes up to bring it back down to normal. What we found is not only is the free radical elevated, but adrenomedullin. A healthy level of adrenomedullin is between 0 and 10. In the average patient, we found it was over 150. And just being exposed to the adrenomedullin scalar for 1 hour a day reduces it 40%.
Absolutely. So that's electromagnetic way to reduce stress. PEMF, by the way, I'm just going to throw this out there, is another way to reduce stress in the body. Again, it's not just mental. It actually works on a cellular level to optimize, to regenerate the trillions of cells.
Well, it actually puts the cell back at normal electrical charge.
Mm-hmm.
When you get stressed, the electrical charge like go down. It should be minus 70. If it's at peace, it's minus 70. Now, if it gets down to minus 90, it doesn't work at all. But if it gets down to 50, it's ah! And what we could do with the PIMS device is put it back to minus 70. I'm okay. I'm at peace. And it's the single greatest invention in the history of the world for treating anxiety and depression, as well as local pain.
Exactly. And interestingly enough, again, this came up as part of your research, Dr. Cellier's research, is stress, anxiety, depression. They all go together, and chronic illness and disease is very closely behind if this goes on long enough.
Yes, there are things like cholesterol, but we can control cholesterol without a stupid, dangerous statin drug 100% of the time. My own cholesterol now is so low that I'm added 2 full tablespoons of fat a day to my diet just to keep me from going too low. My cholesterol was only 136 a couple of months ago. I don't want it to go below 150, really. And but we can do that in everybody.
Mm-hmm.
We can bring your cholesterol from 300 down to anywhere between 150 and 190 is ideal.
Perfect. But the same thing with diabetes, with hypertension. So if you think chronic illness out there, again.
And hypertension especially.
Yeah.
100% of any hypertensive drugs are poison, in my opinion. They cause fatigue. The number one symptom of every single antihypertensive drug is no energy. And in men, of course, no libido. But 100% of the time, we can control that stress. It may take 2 or 3 months to wean you off the junk drugs, but then you can get your energy back and be happy and libido up.
Perfect. And by the way, the drugs, or when we talk about drugs, I'm not talking about street drugs. I'm talking about the pharmaceutical drugs, which are probably worse than some of the street drugs out there. It's really terrible. And that causes stress in the body too. Side effects. Side effects are not benign things, aren't they?
No, they can kill you.
They can kill you. Yeah.
As a matter of fact, according to an article in the Journal of the American Medical Association in July 2000, drugs and the medical system are the number 3 measured cause of death in this country.
And I would bet you if the research was done properly up to par, it's going to be a lot more than that, maybe number 1.
A book came about not long after that, Death by Medicine, in which they claimed it was he is number 1. They're just not being reported. It's like the current stupidemic. They're not reporting the real cause. If you had pneumonia or a heart attack, they claim you out of that instead of the drug.
That's one of the reasons why I surrendered. I literally gave away my privileges in one of the hospitals because I could not live the lie. I mean, I could not do things that were unethical. And there's a lot of, I'm not going to go into that right now. That's why we do what we do, because we can do the right thing. That's just it.
Well, halitosis is better no breath at all, but sweet breath is better than halitosis.
Absolutely. So, just to kind of tie it back to the stress is everything. Stress could be helpful if you make use of it, a tool, and you adjust and you let go, detach. But for anybody with chronic stress, and by the way, I'm going to say this, it's pretty much has become evident to me that the whole purpose intention behind the media, behind society, is to drive the stress up.
Oh, yes.
And we have already demonstrated that the telomeres, the tails of DNA, have gone down by a huge amount, which means people have lost 10 years of their life just with the stress alone. So what does that mean?
The stupidemic is causing more stress than all the cumulative other things of the last 50 years.
And because and with the name of that the stupidemic has, feardemic. As a matter of fact, the interesting thing is it is that's killing people, but it's not the actual biological entity. It's the policy in which the fear and all that stuff. So what do you do in this situation or in any other situation? You learn to take care of yourself. You learn to manage stress.
And you could start a true holistic clinic. And of course, ours is the original holistic clinic in the world.
Mm-hmm. For personalized consultation, because we can offer advice on the radio, but it's without getting into details.
Well, yeah, just this morning, I had a very nice consultation on the phone with someone from Irvine, Texas.
Oh.
And we outlined for her what she could do. Now, here's actually a barely 20-year-old with severe anxiety and depression, but we've got a plan for her. And you can have that as a consultation on the phone, on Zoom, on Skype, but we can help you anywhere in the world. I've got patients in Spain and Greece and London.
It's kind of crazy. People in Springfield, Missouri know less about you than people all around the world. That's us, I should say. And the other thing is we're coming close to the half show or half radio. And so we'll start to take questions in just a few, so that you can ask anything related to stress or related to anything whatsoever. But I do want to make sure that there is resources, that we make people aware of the resources. Biogenicscourse.com. Biogenics course, however you spell course, .com. And that's one of the reasons what's happening now with all the stress in the world is we actually made it on special, so it's affordable, less than $100, literally. And
I am getting comments daily from people about beneficial it is.
Oh, so am I. Testimonials, and I'm actually going to start people to write this down and send it to us. I mean, that's...
So, folks, the important thing is you can do something about everything. Mm-hmm. Now, there is an acute illness you may need conventional medicine. But in my opinion, in 100% of chronic illness, chronic is officially 6 months or longer, you need holistic medicine. That is the Shealy-Sorin Wellness Institute right here in Springfield, Missouri.
So we're still on live, but
yes, and now we can begin to get you ready to ask your questions at 417-447-1777. We want to check to see if you got any questions online.
Yeah, so let me take a quick look at what we've got here. So it's actually been, I think it's stress-related questions, but Linda was asking, saying that she's gone through a big life change. She used to be athletic and had a farm, but she's had to give up the farm, move to a small space, and now she just kind of feels isolated, doesn't really see people as much, and wondering how to move forward and stay healthy.
Yes. The issue, the question is, this is a perfect example of what's happening in our society these days, and that's what we're saying. Stress is killing people. So so here's a beautiful, amazing person of a human being who did all the right things, lifestyle and on the farm, nice, clean living, independent. And now, since the fear-demic has begun, she's now isolated and in all sorts of troubles. So again, what's the first step that you would take on that? I would say Biogenics.
Absolutely. I mean, autogenic training would be at the top of my list, because that actually helps you the first time you practice it. You can lower your blood pressure, lower your adrenaline, and feel more at peace. And
regardless of what's happening out in the world, regardless of whatever nonsense or whatever BS. By the way, I want to clarify what BS stands for: belief system. Because a lot of the belief systems out there are truly BS, really. You don't have to let that into your life. You don't have to let vampires in. You don't have to let the outside garbage in. You can be okay. But it's a question of self-regulation and stress management. Anybody?
Yeah. So Gwenda was asking. She was asking about handling grief and finding peace. It sounds like she's lost a child.
And by the way, the loss of a child is the number one known stressor in the world. Loss of your spouse is slightly below that. I lost my dear wife of 52 years, almost 10 years ago, and I dealt with it with autogenic training and one of our other wonderful devices, the LIST at the time, cranial electrical stimulator.
Yeah.
And you do need that kind of additional help in times of grief. The cranial stimulator or the PIMP device would be at the top of my list, along with autogenic training for grief. And remember, that individual, however, is okay on the other side. That I know I'm at peace about. Any other questions?
Yeah, Paris is asking if bouncing on a mini trampoline is as beneficial to bone strength as jumping on the ground.
Jumping on trampoline versus ground for the bone health.
Actually, bouncing, standing and look up on YouTube, Bounce with Dr. Shealy.
Mm-hmm.
Just standing there, bending your knees up and down and moving your arms vigorously is one of the best exercises in the world. You don't need any special equipment. Now, if you've already got osteoporosis, I would invest $250 in a vibrating plate, because that assists the process as well. But, at least 30 minutes of my daily 2-hour exercise program consists of being on a vibratory plate, moving my arms as vigorously as I can, as well as a lot of other things.
That's perfect. For those people who do want to have weight-bearing exercise, in other words, contact with the ground, and that's very powerfully powerful physical modality for the bone health and for now. Does trampoline have the same effect as being on the ground, kind of like almost like doing jumping jacks, for example, versus trampoline? Now, trampoline has its benefits, and so does being on the ground. In other words, obviously the trampoline is not going to be as much of an impact, which is better for those with joint issues, and it has benefits.
But you don't get the electromagnetic effect of bouncing on the ground
on the earth,
unless you're barefooted or have grounded shoes, because the leather or the rubber actually doesn't give you the electrical contact with the ground. It gives you the physical contact, but not the electromagnetic contact.
But both have benefit.
Both have benefits.
Okay, anybody else?
Nope, and we're going in about 15 seconds.
15 seconds. Good timing. Yep.
And now is your turn. 417-447-1777.
This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters, 92.3 KICK and 99.5 KADI.
Now, back to Wellness Wednesday with Dr. Norm Shealy and Dr. Sergey Sorin.
So, folks, we can continue talking about all the goodies that we have to offer, share with you, or you can call and ask your questions about anything, because it's all related to your health. 417-447-1777.
So just to continue, now there was a couple of questions during the break about especially how do you deal with grief and how do you deal with certain things. You mentioned several factors, autogenic training, biogenics, self-retraining, regulation, but also realizing, I just want to say this again, realizing that when a person transitions, now I know this is a difficult topic to talk about, but let's address it. When you lose a loved one, That's one of the hardest things that happens.
Of course it is. And it is something you control. That you cannot change.
Mhm.
The interesting thing about it is that they stay in touch with you. And we'll talk more about that after we take this call. Good afternoon. You're on the air.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. This is Odell from Utah calling in here. I thought I'd ask you a couple of brief questions here, kind of get your feedback on it. Have either of you had to take any shots when you traveled to any foreign country? I'm just kind of wondering about that.
I will share. This is a question about the shots. I don't know if the shots, especially the COVID shots, are going to become mandatory. I don't know if that's going to get to that stage yet by airlines, because that would be a factor, a huge factor for people who want to get from place to place. But I do want to share that the vaccines, and I'm not going to say anything beyond that. Again, we want to stay on the air. Is experimental. They're experimental entities. It's mRNA. I've seen in the emergency room I worked last weekend a lot of reactions. Again, I don't know if the statistics are going to come out. I don't know if the statistics are going to be allowed per se on this, which would be good for me from my perspective as a doctor. I want to know what the science is, and I haven't been able to get the science officially.
The science sucks.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, there's no circumstance you would have to shoot me with a gun to get one into my body.
And the best way I'm going to say, just to be politically clear, so we don't get too much criticism, for those who have gotten the shots, watch for your immune system, optimize your immune system, because I've seen a lot of immune reactions with the vaccine. And you may need to get intravenous vitamin C, intravenous, or other ways to enhance the immune system. If you haven't gotten your shot, or if you're thinking about it, and I'm just going to say it gently and nicely here, just give it some time so that before we know what's really going on, because we don't know what's going on yet. That's the short of it. Yeah.
Yeah. We'd also heard that something like about half the people in Missouri are not taking the COVID shots.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think a lot of people too, I just kind of want to get your feedback too, getting kind of negative things.
Yes.
My wife and I, we're not going to have it either. We're just kind of wondering what we're going to be up against there, and just kind of curious to your feedback.
I'm just going to, here's my take, and I'm going to come out of the shell here a little bit for this. It's the power here is not in the pharmaceutical industry. The pharmaceutical industry is the one that has something to gain from this. The power is with the people. The power is not even with the government. The power is with the people.
Amen. Right.
We the people, and again, another reason for the head, freedom. We are free to make our decisions. We are free to make our choices. And if we say, if enough people stand up and say, no, this is not acceptable, then it will not become a limiting laws or sets of regulations, or whichever way that goes. I really not interested in politics.
And for people who clearly have an immune problem, I do give them a letter saying from a medical point of view, I think it's dangerous to their health and they should be exempt.
And that's a service is called vaccine exemption. And again, we'll for anybody interested, they can contact our office 417-351-5221, and you can present it to the organization. But whether the organization is going to honor that or not, now I cannot guarantee you that.
Right. Thank you. The last comment, what do you think of other vaccines for measles, mumps, and polio?
I got all the vaccines when I was younger, and I've been paying the price for it. I'm happy to give exemptions for anybody who wants that. The issues with this are, it's not just the vaccine concept, it's a question of immunity. And is the vaccine strengthening or worsening the immunity? And in general, I see unvaccinated research showing a lot of benefit over vaccinated, if you were truly allowed to see that. So I fully support whatever people decide, but if a person decides not to have vaccines, we will support them fully.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much for your feedback. You gentlemen, keep up the good work. God bless.
Thank you. Have a good one. Now is your turn, 417-447-1777.
Yes.
And you can ask it about anything, because I can't think of anything in the world that's not related to your health.
Especially
reaction.
The reaction. Now, let's talk about stressors and opportunities. Every stressor that we encounter is really an opportunity to grow, to get stronger, and to resolve something, to make something better within yourself or in the world. And if you do that, that's acute stress. And if you can grow from that, you will actually experience benefit. That's a good kind of stress. But If the stress becomes chronic, if the stress becomes repetitive, or you're not able to handle it, we have a caller, then that's another thing.
Good afternoon. You're on the air.
Yes. I was wondering if I have taken the vitamin D and the K2 and the C for years at Dr. Shealy's recommendation. But I'm wondering, I'm listening to your program today here from California, and I hear you're talking more vitamin C is needed now and more, different things like that. So do you have a recommendation just as an overall what people should be taking, or is that just very individualized?
Well, it is individual, but it depends some extent upon your weight. For D3 especially, if you weigh under 140 pounds, 50,000 units the 1st, 10th, and 20th of every month. If you weigh over 140 pounds, once a week. That's pretty standard. Now, if you feel a bug coming on, you can take 150,000 units 3 days in a row to try to. I mean, I've over the last 12 years, maybe once a year, I've had a feeling that something was what I call knocking at the door, and I've taken that much vitamin D3, and I've never gotten a virus, a cold, or flu in the last 12 years. Now, you always need vitamin B complex to cope with the need for vitamin C. In other words, if you take extra vitamin C, you've got to have at least B6, but I like B1, B2, B3, and B6. And that should be, for the average person, 25 milligrams of B complex, as in...
A day?
Yeah.
Okay.
The Shealy-Sorin Echo Green Essentials. Two of those a day give you that.
Okay, I take those. Okay.
And for the average person, 4 of the youth formula, that gives you 2,000 milligrams of vitamin C and 1,000 milligrams of MSM, which is actually equal to 4,000 milligrams of vitamin C in its effect on your immune system. Again, in case of a feeling that you need more, you could double the vitamin C or the youth formula. Most people can't go much above double that without getting some diarrhea.
And let's not forget about magnesium.
And
as
magnesium
a general
lotion.
Yeah.
Again, 80% of Americans are deficient in magnesium because it's not in our food.
Right. And I do the magnesium spray. Is that still good?
Same thing, yes.
Okay. Okay. That's wonderful. Thank you so very much.
Hey, thank you for calling.
Absolutely.
Have a wonderful day.
And you. 417-447-1777. Time to call right now.
Oh, yeah, indeed.
And it's about anything. But the most important thing is how you think. Thinking sets in motion spiritual forces to bring about change in body, mind, companions, hopes, and despair.
Exactly. And just a simple analogy that I use, you can be driving the best vehicle in the universe, but if you point the wheel, if you point the direction into the wall, you're going to hit the wall. So every thought is a prayer. Are you thinking positive? Are you thinking negative? How are you handling your world? Or is your world handling you? That's one of the big questions. And do you want to learn how to handle your world?
And of course, you do that from the time you get up in the morning till the time you go to bed at night. And remember, if you sleep 6 hours or less, you function at the level of someone who is slightly drunk. There are more automobile accidents created by people who get inadequate sleep than there are from drugs and alcohol.
And that's another stressor, by the way.
Yes.
Huge stressor.
Oh, lack of sleep. I mean, you couldn't pay me personally to work a night shift because people who work night shifts have many more illnesses and stress. And good afternoon. You're on the air. Hello?
Hi, this is Helene from Reno, Nevada.
Helene, hi.
How would you say I am not going to get the vaccination, and do you have any suggestions on how to say nicely? I mean, I like my doctor, but how do I say nicely no?
Helene, I'm just going to give you a simple answer. It has two letters. No, that's it. You're a free person. You have a free mind, and it's however whatever the media is painting and whatever the medical establishment is painting, you still have a free choice. So if you want to say no, and I'm not saying anything else by that. If you want to say no, say no. No. That's it. And don't feel bad about it. You know who you are.
Like the last time I went for my annual, she was giving me a list of because I'm 68 years old, the shingles and the pneumonia, and I kept saying no. And I did say no, and she said to me, "Why?" So what? Just repeat no. Do you think?
Okay. Tell him your bosom buddy, Norm Shealy, told you not to.
Or my other favorite is when to the question of why, you can say another very simple, very effective answer: because. Just say because. Yeah. Anyway, I'm just kidding. But you can be, and I understand you have a relationship, you want to continue the relationship. You can just say, it's my personal choice, it's my body, it's my mind. And if you really in the medical establishment, because again, the doctors are being pressured into certain standards of care, so to speak, and those standards have become anything but good, and they are under the pressure to, when I'm in the emergency room, I have to document, refuse this, refuse that. Now, I guess some of that stuff makes no sense, but if I don't document it, I get people from billing coming after me, and that's emergency rooms. Primary care is probably even worse. So you can just say, I would like to exercise my right to refuse. And that's it. And that's called a mutual decision making. Mutual decision making means you are practicing your right as a patient, as a person, as a human, and you're at the same time satisfying the doctor or provider's need to document their discussion, that they've covered all the topics, and give them a reasonable way out and be free.
Yeah, that's good. Norm was joking a little bit, say that I said, Norm Shealy said, and actually I do. I say my health mentor, Norm Shealy and Sergey Sorin. Do you know who Norm Shealy is? And they say no. When they say no, I say, do you know what the TENS unit is? And they all know what the TENS unit is. And I said, well, he had the very first patent on the TENS unit, and I believe it was in the 60s.
Yes. yes.
And you could add spinal cord stimulation to that. And
there's about 15 other patents, so thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Hey, thank you, Helene. Wonderful. Yes. Blessings, my dear.
Mm-hmm. That's the other thing about, I think the other topic for today, the other main thing is the word freedom. We are free. We really are. And even if there's a sense that there's no freedom, it's an illusion. Literally, it's an illusion. So, and unless and until we voluntarily give the freedom away, or refuse to exercise it, because then we become the opposite of freedom. But the freedom in health, the freedom for wellness, the freedom from stress, the freedom for your life, in whatever you consider important for your life, you have it. Nobody can take it away from you. Nobody. Not the government, not the healthcare system. Nobody.
Just as you can choose when you go to bed and when you get up, what you eat each meal of the day,
lifestyle, yes.
How you think every moment of every day. Thinking is your control.
Every thought is a prayer.
Now remember, you can train your brain, and sometimes your brain may insist upon doing things different from somebody else. That's your right, in my opinion. As long as you're not purposefully, physically harming someone else, you have a right to do whatever you wish to do. Now, you might have to move to a farm and live on do some things that you might want to do, but that's okay too. I mean, personally, I live and have lived for the vast majority of my life, my childhood mostly, and for the last, since 1969, lived on a farm. And I don't want to live in a city. I would consider any city. There's a little city 5 miles from my house, if only 614 people, I think. I wouldn't even want to live there. I like the idea of having my farm where I can raise all my own vegetables and fruits. Not all my fruits, but many of them. I only planted 66 different plants last Sunday to start my spring garden. And I actually started the seeds of 66 different ones. And in another month, I'll start twice that.
Sounds like a fairly stress-free life.
Well, to me, actually, gardening is my relief for stress. It is, I feel more comfortable sitting and working around in the garden than I do sitting in a house even.
And if I can recommend something for just everybody out there, regardless of, unless you have severe allergies to nature, but in which case address your immune system, of course, first. Get out in nature. Enjoy the nature, whether by yourself or with a company, but enjoy the benefit of what the world has to offer.
I do want to mention one thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't use sunblocker. I think that's that's almost as bad as a vaccine because it prevents you from taking the benefit of the sun. Now, since about 1976, I took beta carotene, only 100,000 units a day, and that pretty much prevents you from getting sunburn. But astaxanthin, astaxanthin, 30 milligrams of that, I take that all year because then when the sun is out and I'm working in the garden, I don't have to worry about getting a sunburn. I haven't had a sunburn in 50 years or more. And it prevents it because it keeps my skin, healthy.
Wonderful.
So you make the choices. Everything that you put into your mouth, every thought you put into your head is your responsibility. It's not mine. I can tell you a reaction that you might want to know or might not. I could give you advice, but I can't, and I wouldn't want to try to control you. I help you make the choice. I guide you with facts as to whether or not you want to make the choice to go this route.
Mm-hmm. And that's what the holistic evaluation is really about.
And let's face it, the word holistic means holy.
Mm-hmm.
It comes from the Greek word holos, and holy is
sacred
connection with God and the divine. In fact, that got thrown out about 300 years ago.
With the Cartesian
medicine.
Yeah, that's.
And to me, that's why it has to be put back. Not a specific religion, but a relationship to you and God in your own mind and belief system.
Mm-hmm. And the freedom to be yourself, the freedom to be true to who you came in to be, and the best self that you can be. And that's called optimization in my, that's one of the words I use, but you know who you are, you know what works for you, you know who you could be. So overcome those limitations and deal with whatever needs to be done in a holistic way, and mind, body, and spirit. And every challenge is an opportunity.
Now, remember, 40+% of Americans have high blood pressure.
Mm-hmm.
The antihypertensive drugs suck. There is no circumstance would you put one in my mouth, I'd bite your finger off or your hand before I'd get it in my body.
Mm-hmm.
There's no antidepressive drug, no anti-anxiety drug I would allow in my body. We have treated about 34,000 people who failed conventional medicine. That's our specialty, is taking care of people who fail conventional medicine. And if you have failed conventional medicine, if you don't like the side effects or negative effects, that's when you need to come and see us and let us help you. Now, it may take 3 to 6 months if you need to be weaned off a bunch of drugs, but that's what we do, and it's safe. And our success rate is better than anyone I know for pain, depression, anxiety, hypertension, and a whole bunch of other things.
Now, I do want to mention approximately or over 85% in general where everything else has failed, but there is the 50% who have not responded. And the interesting finding about that, the 15%ers, the one that don't.
Most of the time, they won't do it.
They won't do it.
They don't take advice. They won't do 18 minutes of retraining the brain twice a day.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one I have more trouble getting people to do than anything else. Who doesn't have the possibility of 18 minutes? Good afternoon. You're on the air.
Hi, this is Bob. Last fall, I had COVID. I'm 66. It did not hit me too hard, and got over it fairly readily. I had an annual physical exam actually 2 months later, the doctor felt I checked out okay. But now, 6 months later, I'm still feeling compromised in my lungs. They just don't feel quite right. Do you have any recommendations on supplements or anything that might help build that area?
Yes, I suspect, obviously, I'd like to listen to your lungs, but if I were going to treat you, at the top of my list would be intravenous vitamin C and possibly
ozone, intravenous
and
ozone.
possibly ozone.
Yeah, that just cleans out the system entirely.
Now, if look up if you've got any on the internet and find any doctor who advertises being holistic, they will almost always give you IV vitamin C, and some of them will also have ozone.
Where do you live?
Okay, well, in the past, I've received those treatments at your office, so I'm familiar with that. I'll see about making an appointment.
We would love to see you. Fantastic. If you're local to Springfield, please.
Yep.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, this morning, Mariana came in and said, "Oh, by the way, Lindy wants you to have another IV. She takes care of me." She insisted I get one about once a month, all through this entire time. But it does strengthen my immune system. So we do partake of our own medicine.
And I try to go for one every week. I mean, that's I work in emergency rooms. I haven't had any problems whatsoever. So
very well. Yeah, it's just kind of left me feeling like those lungs just are a little compromised. I mean, the symptoms are long gone.
Good.
And I do a little working out, and when I do, and you start working your respiratory system and such, it just something just feels a little bit rough in there.
A lot of it is inflammation and hyperimmunity. In other words, just immune jacking, so to speak. So what the key is normalizing the immune system, and we can. I would love to talk to you more as a consultation as well, just to kind of optimize everything.
All right, excellent. That makes sense. I'll get in touch with your office. Thank you very much.
Wonderful.
Thank you for calling, Bob. That's what it's all about, making a choice. A choice to, I don't have to take an IV of vitamin C. Why would I not? I can't imagine any reason to refuse having it.
I just want to say something about the word the have and the want, or the choose. I hear a lot of people, and I catch myself saying that all the time. I have to do this. I have to go to work. Now, I didn't have to go to the radio today, but if I didn't, I would pay the consequences. But it's a question of what do we choose to do? Because I didn't have to be here. I choose to be here. I choose to eat right. I choose to exercise. I choose to do the things that are good for me. I don't have to do those things.
So think right. Every thought is a prayer. So make your prayers, your thinking in concert, harmony with your own spiritual ideals. Everything you do, everything you think, everything you say, the choice is yours, and I choose the holistic approach, and you should too.
Amen. Well, I think we covered a very good number of things on the topic of stress management. I can't think of anything else to say after the show. Can you?
No, I think we've got it covered.
Yeah, so for all the Facebook Live, YouTube Live, thank you for